tossers have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They're hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to say, talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal, it's hit him on the pad, he's out! Lions gone, New South Wales are 9 down! Onto Sydney Road, and it's hit a car! Oh, I think it's hit a car! What a way to bring up your 50!
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Oh, hello everybody and welcome back to Cricket Unfiltered. It is a quiet Sunday night in Sydney. Nothing is going on, so I thought let's jump in. Lots of cricket news. Got a pretty big correction from the last episode. There was a record-breaking innings over the weekend in Sydney. We might have unearthed a new star. And yeah, I want to get into the batting race and get into a little bit of listener mail. Won't be a particular long episode, but thanks everybody for joining me. So let's start with the correction. So I went on a big fucking rant on the last Cricket Unfiltered episode saying it's good Ashwin's coming, but he's only coming for 3 games. That's not enough. He's not going to make a difference. And then within 24 hours, the news had broken that the ILT20 had not picked Ashwin up. So that means he's now available for every Sydney Thunder game. So firstly, obviously, I'm going to retract everything I said because now this is amazing. If Ashwin is coming for every game, he can make a huge difference to the health of the competition. He can make a huge difference to the crowds. He can be such a great ambassador. He's going to travel all around the country. He's just going to be fantastic, and he's the perfect person for it. He's very outgoing, good on the media. So, this is fantastic news. And it's a win for cricket fans because in the end, more cricket fans around the country will get to see Ashwin live. And I think he'll add thousands to every gate in the games he plays. I think you'll see, a lot of Indian cricket fans heading out to see him. So, this is an absolutely ideal scenario for the Thunder. And, Damien and I talked about perhaps the Sydney Thunder team makeup. Well, now that he's coming for the whole season, everything's out the window. It doesn't matter. I mean, when you get a player like Ashwin available, you move everybody out of the way and slot him in. So, yeah, this has turned out fantastically. And, congratulations to the Big Bash. Congratulations to the Sydney Thunder. Congratulations to all the people that pushed for this to happen. I think Cricket Unfiltered got on the front foot with this very quickly and, we're lobbying for him to be looked at as a potential candidate. So, yeah, it is happening. He's coming for the whole season. And, it's a great win for Cricket Unfiltered. I go to a lot of the Sydney Thunder games at home bush, and I'll be able to hopefully have a chat with him in person and get his view of the Big Bash. All right, so I'm going to get to the batting race. But before that, we have seen a record-breaking innings from a former Australian under-19 player. Now, you got to be living on Mars if you haven't heard about this, but Harjas Singh made 314 off 141 balls with 35 sixes and 12 fours for Western Suburbs versus Sydney Cricket Club at Pratton Park. I've actually commentated at Pratton Park, and yeah, it's a nice little suburban ground, and for him to hit 314, so that is the highest limited overs score in New South Wales Premier Cricket history, and the previous best was 205 not out, so he's beaten it by 109. It's the third highest score in New South Wales Premier first grade history, so that's in all innings. So when you've got players playing multi-day cricket who can bat for a number of overs, Singh's done it in about 40 overs. I heard him on the ABC grandstand today, and he only came in like the 10th over or something, so he didn't even bat the full 50 overs. So most sixes in an innings by a player in Premier cricket. Third highest score behind Victor Trumper, number 1, with 335. Parramatta v Redfern in 1902-03. Number 2 is friend of the show, Phil Jakes, playing for Sutherland versus North Sydney in 2006-7. He hit 321, and then 6, and then number 3, Singh, 314. So just a phenomenal performance. And what we need now is we need this Harjas Singh in a Big Bash team. We just need to make it happen. And this is where Indian cricket does it better. Look at Vaibhav Suryavanshi. He's been given opportunities at a very young age. Now, Singh's 19 or 20. He's not a young man like Suryavanshi. So he needs to be given opportunities straight away. You just can't let a piece of fruit like Harjas Singh wither on the vine. I heard, so some of those stats were courtesy of Daily Telegraph, so thank you very much. And also I heard him interviewed on ABC Grandstand. He said after he got 100, he just wanted to hit every ball for 6, and he did. So well done to him. And he talked about how he'd been in and out of the high performance setup. I mentioned he was a former Australian under-19 representative, but had fallen out of the setup, wasn't part of the New South Wales squad. But now he's announced himself, and Australian cricket needs to give him a chance. And I imagine his phone will be ringing hot right now. But yeah, that's my big takeaway. India would not let this guy sit on the sidelines. We have very few sort of these breakout performances in Australian cricket that you need to get this guy into the Big Bash this summer. Let's see what he can do. Let's see what he can do for a franchise, and it'll be a great story. It'll be a fantastic story. All right, so let's get into the batting race. So a couple of emails before we get into it. Mel from Yorkshire, thanks for writing in, Mel. Always love hearing from you. Said he's enjoying the podcast. It's helping him get over the postseason blues in England. Now, he wonders if there really is a bat-off as the new Shield begins. Thinks Constance must start, and Khawaja is nearing his farewell, so we'll play. So I'll say a couple of things. Firstly, there is a bat-off because Constance does need runs in the Shield. He started well with the Australia A100s. We'll get to his performance in the most recent match, but he needs a score. He needs a couple of scores. He can't just go in. They're not just going to pick him if he hasn't made runs. I don't think he needs to make a lot of runs. Like, I think incumbency will help if he scores a couple of 50s and looks good in a few games. I think they'll probably persist with him. You're right about Khawaja. There's no way they're dropping him. He's cemented his spot, and they just really are going to back him. And maybe if he fails against Wood and Archer, he gets turfed during the summer. And Mel said he's keen to watch Will Sutherland. Well, I think Will's over in India playing for Australia A in some 50-over games. But anyway, Mel, thank you very much for writing in. And also shout out to Mike from Boston. Now, Mike wrote in, he's a new cricket convert. He was disillusioned with American sports, so he started following cricket, and he went to the T20 World Cup and saw USA beat Pakistan. And lovely email from Mike. Love hearing from fans all around the world. So thank you, Mike. I also love Boston, one of my favorite places in the world. All right, so let's get into the batting race. Now, as I record this, we are 2 days into 4-day Shield matches. So I'm not really going to go into the games. It's more about the individual performances and how this affects the batting race. So let's start with Queensland versus Tasmania. Jake Weatherall has started off with a good 67 off 99. Sam Constance won't be too happy because Khawaja dropped Weatherall before he really got going. But Weatherall, I think, is really right on the cusp of selection. If Constance fails and Weatherall starts well, I think he's a really strong chance of being in that first test. So starting off with a good 60 is pretty good. And it's hard to generalize, but looking at all three of the pitches that these matches are being played on, they're not exactly very conducive to batting. The New South Wales WA game being played at the WACA looks particularly green. But, yeah, the conditions don't look particularly easy for batting, especially when Tasmania batted early against Queensland. And now, Tim Ward made 6 for Tasmania in this innings, and I've got an email here from Matt. Love the podcast, mate. Any reason why Tim Ward isn't in the discussion to be an Australian opener? Averaged higher than Weatherall, Kellaway and Constance last season and scored more runs than Constance in fewer innings. I think Tim Ward just hasn't done quite enough yet to be considered as an Australian opening candidate. He averages, mid to low 30s. Very good player. I think he's originally from Sydney, played a lot of cricket here growing up. But, yeah, he just hasn't done enough. He's 27. He's played 38 games and averaging in that 34. It's probably just he needs a really big start to the summer and put his name out there. Another one's Henry Hunt we'll get to. He made 100 and, he's someone who's not really talked about either. I think there's also a feeling that with Khawaja, you do need a stroke maker. And Ward and Hunt are very much in the Khawaja mold of grinding it out. That's why Weatherall's a good option. Constas is a good option because they're dynamic players. But Matt, thank you for the email. All right, then Queensland batted and Khawaja made 69 off 118. And I think this has done two things. One, it's cemented his spot for the first test. I mean, it was cemented anyway, but if there are any like whispers, I know Eddie Cowan on his podcast thinks Khawaja needs to make runs to be picked, but I think he was always going to be picked, and this just underlines that. And also, good for Khawaja, now means he can probably opt out of a few Shield games because he's shown he's in form. He'll probably only have to play one more game for Queensland until the first test, and I think, let's face it, that's probably what he wants. Like, a lot of these blokes don't like playing the Shield, so the fact that he's shown he's in form means he can then just play maybe one more game, two more games at most, and he'll be ready for that first test. Now, Marnus Labuschagne, he's a 54 not out of 80 deliveries. So fine performance from him. He's back. Can he keep this run of form up? And then, the selectors will have headaches. I've spoken about it before. I mean, if he does put together a number of scores, then he could be, in that number 3 spot, and it's Webster v. Green, but 54 not out, needs to make a big one. Just on Webster, he missed this game with a minor strain. So he had to miss the first game of the Shield. He wouldn't want to be on the sidelines for too long. We're talking about the balance of the test side, and it could make it easy for the selectors, if he's injured and doesn't play much. But from the reports I read, though, it seems like Webster will be fit for the next game, and this was just precautionary. But still missed this game, so didn't have an opportunity to press his claims for continued test selection, even though I think he probably should be there. Matt Renshaw, the forgotten man. He's 114 not out for Queensland. He's somebody who's often talked about as a candidate for that opening spot. And I don't think it's more this summer. I mean, he certainly could open the batting with Khawaja if he goes on a century streak and really knocks the door down. He's as good a candidate as any. He's played 14 test matches. The selectors have shown in the past they think he's a quality player, but he just hasn't ever really scored the runs at the right time when a spot's available. And he almost batted himself out of the test side at one point. So anyway, started the season well. He's 114 not out, opening the batting. And I think he's someone, who's a real smoky to come in when Khawaja retires. If it's not this summer, when Khawaja retires, maybe at the end of the Ashes or gets dropped, I think you can see Renshaw maybe replacing him if he can put together a string of scores. Now, just before I get to the next game, on the Queensland bowling, Michael Neser took 4 for 75, bowling very well. And I just want to again underline what a quality player he is. And I think the selectors would be smart to use him if there is injuries, because I think what Australia needs in the furnace of an Ashes is experience. And Neser's been there, done that. He's a cool character. Played 2 test matches, had 7 wickets at an average of just under 17. At first class level, he has, I don't know if this is updated. I think he's got over 400 first class wickets now at an average under 24. So that's a phenomenal record. Add to that, he's made 5 first class hundreds, and therefore is a nice little handy bat down the order. If you're looking at someone who like a Cummins being out, Neser's a nice little like for like replacement. Can hold the bat. Obviously not the bowler that Cummins is, but bowls in a similar channel. So yeah, started the summer well, 4 for 75. Injuries to dog it. And I just wonder if push comes to shove and you had a spot open and say it was Neser versus Abbott, would you go for Neser knowing he's played 2 test matches, plays a lot of cricket in England? Just a thought. All right, now let's get to the next match. the South Australia game, and Nathan McSweeney a duck of 21 deliveries, so wasn't able to further his case. Jason Sanger, 19 of 32 deliveries. Again, wasn't able to knock the door down, and that's versus Victoria. So McSweeney a duck, not a good start for him. For Victoria, Marcus Harris, he was run out for 61, and he'll kick himself. He was set, and it was a casual run. Hanscom just knocked the ball into the offside. Harris was at the non-strikers and was backing up, but seemed to have the bat in the wrong hand. And then as the ball came in, he veered off to the right instead of going in a straight line, and it was a direct hit, and he was out. So, real opportunity lost for Harris. 61 could have made it a really big one. For Victoria, Boland took 2 for 53, so he's in good form. That was off 23 overs. Campbell Kellaway made a duck for Victoria, so obviously did well for Australia A, but hasn't started the summer off with runs. But this is just one inning, so we don't want to get too caught up in it. Now to WA versus New South Wales. That's been played at the Wacker. Sam Constas, 4 off 25. Was a green top, but Joel Paris gave him a bit of a working over. He was dropped the over before he was out LBW. Paris swinging the ball back into the right-hander, and Constas out for 4. So not a good start for him. Other performances to note, Cameron Green back at the crease, bowled 4 overs, took 1 wicket, and it was in his first over, second ball. He figures 1 for 13 off 4 overs. He did bat at number 4 for WA, which was interesting. I think that's his preferred spot when Smudge leaves that spot. I think you'll see Green at number 4 for Australia. He made 19 off 43, batting at 4 before he was out. Another contender, Cameron Bancroft, 10 off 29. He's a smoky. I don't think you'd see him in the Australian side unless he knocked the door down, but hasn't started with a big score. So that's where we are halfway through the first Shield game. And really the key movers here are, Renshaw with a ton, Marnus 54 not out, Khawaja just, a solid knock to underline that he'll be there for the first test. But other than that, the real contenders to open with Khawaja haven't really knocked the door down in this first 2 days. So let's see if they can do that with the rest of these games. Constas needs a score. Can Weatherald continue his form? I guess he's someone that's probably stocks up, Weatherald. Constas slightly down. So, really intriguing stuff. All right, now before I wrap this up, just international cricket. Australia beat New Zealand in a T20 series. I'll sort of go into it in detail with Damien later, but in the third game, we saw Mitch Marsh etch his name into history. He joins Shane Watson, David Warner, Glenn Maxwell, and Josh Inglis as the Australians to score centuries in all formats of the game. So now 5 Australians to do that. The surprising one there is Josh Inglis because he's hardly played, but has managed to do it with the limited opportunities. In that game, New Zealand were made 9 for 156. Australia chased it down. It was a lone hand. Marsh, 103 not out of 52 deliveries. Australia 7 for 160. Mitch Owen was the second top scorer with 14. So it just underlines the dominance of Mitch Marsh in that game. Australia win that series 2-0. Second game was washed out. And the Women's World Cup. Again, I'll go into more detail with Damien, but Australia beat New Zealand in the opener. Really good game. Ash Gardner rescued Australia from some early trouble with a blistering 100. Good support right down the order, but really impressive knock from Ash Gardner, and then Sophie Molyneux and the whole Australian attack were too good for the Kiwis despite a Sophie Devine century. So they got off to a great start. Loved what Phoebe Litchfield did at the top of the order, just a brisk 40-odd to get the Aussies going. And then in the second match against Sri Lanka, it was completely rained out. So that's probably a good thing for Sri Lanka. Share the points, don't have to face the juggernaut that is the Australians. All right, well, that's really it for Cricket Unfiltered. I just wanted to jump on this Sunday night. It's the 5th of October. It's a public holiday here in Sydney. Not much going on, not much sport on, a lot of Shield cricket. So thought it was appropriate to just give you a bit of an update. Be back with a full episode. Well, not a full episode with Damien, I think, later this week. Lots to talk about. But Summer's coming. Don't forget, you can get your Cricket Unfiltered merchandise. The link is in the episode notes. That is done by a great company called Exactamundo. They do a lot of high quality merchandise and video work. Damien, who runs that, is a long-time listener of the show. So he's partnering with us on this. So if you need anything, have a look at their website. They're fantastic. Don't forget, you can get an ad-free version of the show on Patreon. We'd love a few more Patreon subscribers for the summer. What else? If you've got any emails, get in touch. Send them through to cricketunfilteredpodcast@gmail.com. But yeah, thanks everybody for listening, and I'll be back soon.